Hey, what's going on, guys? Today I'll be talking about the NFC East team schedules and what I think their records will look like in 2025. This on another episode of. So, to start off the NFC East, we have the 2024 season Super Bowl champions, the Philadelphia Eagles. So, the Philadelphia Eagles, week one, they are facing the Cowboys at home, and this should be a win for them. The Cowboys aren't as good as the Eagles right now, and they have to go to face the Eagles in Philadelphia, which that isn't going to be easy. So right now, I feel like that's an easy first week one win for the Eagles. Heading into week two, the Eagles travel to Kansas City to play the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, this being a Super Bowl rematch, it's a very big game. Emotions will be high, and I think the Eagles win again. I think the Eagles going in to play the Chiefs in Arrowhead will win their second game of the year. Week three, we have the Eagles against the LA Rams. Now, the Rams were the team that played the Eagles the best in the 2024 playoffs. They came within one caught ball of beating the Eagles, and that game took place in the middle of the blizzard. So this game will be a very good game, but I think, again, the Rams will fall to the Eagles. Just the Rams normally are very slow to start, and the Eagles are a very good team, so I feel like the Rams just won't be as up to speed as they probably should be at this point of the season. Heading into week four, the Eagles will be traveling to Tampa Bay to play the Buccaneers. And this is actually where I have the Eagles losing their first game of the year. The Eagles have, in the past few years, found interesting ways to lose to the Buccaneers. And I think the Buccaneers' win streak against the Jalen Hurts Eagles continues here in 2025. Week five, the Eagles, of course, will be hosting the Broncos. I think that's a win for the Eagles. The Broncos have a very young quarterback in Bo Nix. I don't think they're at the level necessary to handle a team like the Eagles. And in week six, the Eagles play the Giants in New Jersey. And that's going to be another win. Week seven, the Eagles will be traveling to play the Minnesota Vikings. And that will also be a win for the Philadelphia Eagles. The Vikings, of course, have J.J. McCarthy as their starting quarterback heading into 2025. And until he shows that he actually deserves to be the starting quarterback in the NFL, I will give the Eagles the edge here. In week 8, the Eagles will be playing, once again, the New York Giants, but this time in Philly. And I think the Eagles sweep the Giants this year. The Giants have a rough schedule, which we'll get to later. And the Eagles are just the better team. Obviously, week 9 bye. In week 10, the Eagles will go play the Packers in Green Bay. And obviously, the Packers have been trying to get the tush-push banned. So I think the Eagles will win this game and make the Packers even more salty. In week 11, the Eagles will be hosting the Detroit Lions. Now, the Lions are also a very good NFC team, and this is where I think the Eagles lose their second game this year. I think the Lions' defense and the fact that they are also a very run-heavy team with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, I think they will outduel Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley, handing the Eagles their second loss of the season. But don't feel too bad, Eagles fans, because in Week 12, you're traveling to Dallas to play the Cowboys again, and I think the Eagles will win that game. The Cowboys are just not to the same caliber as the Eagles in this season, so I'm giving the Eagles another win there. In Week 13, the Eagles will be hosting the Chicago Bears. Honestly, I think the Bears could be a great team this year. They improved a lot this offseason, but I don't think they're to the level necessary to beat the Eagles yet. So I think the Eagles will win that game against the Bears. And then in Week 14, the Eagles will be traveling out to LA to play the Los Angeles Chargers in SoFi. And I think that the Eagles will lose this game. Partially that's because Coach Harbaugh out there in LA is a great coach, and also I think the Chargers will be a much improved team in 2025 and will likely be one of the better AFC teams. In Week 15, the Eagles will be hosting the Raiders, and that's going to be a win. The Raiders obviously are not to the same level as the Eagles. They have Ashton Genty, and if he turns out to be a great running back, that'll improve the Raiders, but they don't have a very good defense, and they don't have necessarily the same weapons that Philadelphia has on the offense. Heading into Week 16, the Eagles will be traveling to face their biggest division rival this year in the Washington Commanders, and I think they lose this game. I think that the Philadelphia Eagles will fall to the Commanders in Washington. The Commanders will be much improved in terms of roster over 2024. In Week 17, the Eagles will be traveling to face the Buffalo Bills, and this might be one of the best games to watch of the season as Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills take on Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I think the Eagles will lose this game. I think the Bills tend to play very well in the regular season, and Josh Allen, no offense to Jalen Hurts, is the better quarterback. He can put up crazy numbers, and if he gets ahead of the Eagles, and the Eagles actually have to start throwing the ball to try and catch up if the Bills get a lead, I think that will be a big issue for Philadelphia. In Week 18, the Eagles will be playing at home the Washington Commanders for the last game of the season. Now, given that at this point in the season, I don't think, even in the last week, the number one seed will be locked up. I think the Eagles will actually trot out their starters for Week 18. So, and against the Commanders at home, I think the Eagles win. I think they split the series with Washington, and they finish the season with a record of 12-5. Next up in the NFC East, we have the Washington Commanders. And Week 1, the Washington Commanders will be playing the New York Giants at home. And in their home opener against the Giants, I think the Commanders win. The Giants are just not at the same level as the Commanders. The Giants don't have a franchise quarterback. In fact, we don't know who will be starting for the Giants Week 1. Will it be Russell Wilson? Will it be Jackson Dart? Will it be Tommy DeVito or Jameis Winston? We don't know. And until we know, there's no telling what kind of quarterback comparison there will be to Jaden Daniels. So, as of right now, I have to give the Commanders the Week 1 win. In Week 2, the Commanders will be traveling to play the Green Bay Packers. Now, I think the Commanders win this game. I don't think the Packers will have as high-powered offense yet against the Commanders. So I think the Commanders' offense will overpower the Packers. In Week 3, the Commanders will be facing the Raiders at home. And the Raiders, while I do think Ashton Genty will be a great running back, Geno Smith is an older quarterback, and I'm not sure he's the guy for the Raiders. Especially considering that his best target is Brock Bowers. The Raiders don't necessarily have a good pass-catching core outside of Jacoby Myers, so if the Commanders get ahead, which with Jaden Daniels, Deebo Samuel, and Terry McLaurin, I think they will, I don't think the Raiders will be able to catch up, and thus the Commanders start out the season 3-0. Heading into Week 4, the Commanders will be traveling to Atlanta to play the Falcons, and I actually think the Commanders will once again win here. I think the Commanders will beat the Falcons to go 4-0, be undefeated heading into Week 5. Heading into Week 5, the Commanders will be taking on the LA Chargers. Now, this is where I have the Commanders taking their first loss. I think the Chargers at home will beat the Commanders. I think that the Chargers have that nice in-between mainly rushing team and mainly passing team where they can rush if they want to grind out wins or if they need to go into a shootout mode. Justin Herbert and Ladd McConkey are able to do that. So, heading into Week 6, the Commanders are now 4-1, and they are facing the Bears at home. Now, the Bears, like I said before, are a very improved team. They upgraded their O-line. They got more passing weapons for Caleb Williams, and they should be a lot better in 2025. And I think the Bears get their revenge for the Hail Mary Jaden Daniels pass in 2024 and win this game. Heading into Week 7, the Commanders will be traveling to Dallas to play the Cowboys, and I think the Commanders win this game. The Cowboys are sadly the third best team in the NFC East this year, and barring some miracle from Dallas, I think the Commanders will win. In Week 8, the Commanders travel to Kansas City to play the Chiefs, and I think Jaden Daniels actually loses to Patrick Mahomes in Week 8. I think the Chiefs match up pretty well with the Commanders, and unfortunately for Jaden Daniels, he is not as good as Patrick Mahomes at winning crucial games just yet. Heading into Week 9, the Commanders will be playing the Seattle Seahawks, and I think at home they will beat the Seahawks. I think that the Washington Commanders will be able to exploit the Seattle Seahawks' weaknesses and will pull out a win in Week 9. In Week 10, the Commanders will be playing the Detroit Lions at home, and that should be a pretty good game. I think emotions will be running high for both teams, and I think the Commanders will take care of business and beat the Lions, continuing the Lions' weird streak of losing to the Commanders. In Week 11, the Commanders will be playing the Miami Dolphins, and the Miami Dolphins are not as good as they have been in years past. So I think the Dolphins actually will lose this game. I think the Commanders win it. Heading into Week 13, the Commanders will be playing the Denver Broncos. And I think the Broncos actually win. I think Week 13, the Commanders take a loss to the Broncos. The Broncos' defense was one of the best in 2024, and they've only gotten better and added more good pieces in the 2025 offseason. So I think the Broncos' defense will lead them to a victory over the Commanders in Week 13. In Week 14, the Commanders will be traveling to the Minnesota Vikings to play, and this should be a solid win for the Commanders. The scariest thing about the Minnesota Vikings is their defense, and Jaden Daniels is a great quarterback, and I don't think he will have too much trouble there. Heading into Week 15, the Washington Commanders will be taking on the New York Giants in New York. The Giants just aren't ready to take on a team like the Commanders, and they'll take care of business again, taking out the Giants for the second time this year and continuing to be one of the best teams in the NFC. In Week 16, the Commanders will be taking on the Eagles for the first time in the season, and like I've said before, I think the Commanders will win this game. The Eagles match up interestingly with the Commanders, but I think the Commanders are that much improved from last year with more weapons that they'll win and out-duel Jalen Hurts in this first meeting of the two teams. In Week 17, the Washington Commanders will once again play the Dallas Cowboys, and I have Dallas losing this game. Dallas has a brutal second half to their season, and I think that they will slide and lose multiple games against the good teams they keep running into in the latter half of their schedule, and the Commanders are just one of those teams, so I think the Cowboys fall to the Commanders here, and the Commanders move on to Week 18. In Week 18, the Washington Commanders finish out their season playing the Philadelphia Eagles, and I think the Commanders fall to the Eagles in this game. The Eagles will still be competing to try and get the best possible playoff seed they can, and the Commanders in Philadelphia will not be able to match the Philadelphia Eagles. So the Washington Commanders end their season with a 12-5 record, the same as the Philadelphia Eagles. Next up, we have the Dallas Cowboys. Now, the Dallas Cowboys, Week 1, they play the Philadelphia Eagles, and honestly, going into Philadelphia in the season opener against a team that just won the Super Bowl, I think the Cowboys lose this game. Week 2, the Dallas Cowboys will be at home, however, playing the New York Giants, and I think the Cowboys win this game. The Giants coming into Dallas just spells disaster for the Giants. The Cowboys in the past few seasons have been quite good at dismantling that team, and once again, with the Giants not necessarily knowing who their quarterback is, it's likely that they will fall apart once again against the Dallas Cowboys. In Week 3, the Dallas Cowboys will be traveling to Chicago to play the Bears. And this game's interesting because the Bears are a very improved team. And Dallas is, well, if everyone stays healthy, also a pretty good team. They're just not to the same level as the Eagles, as I've said previously. So I think in Week 3, I think the Bears actually lose to the Cowboys. I don't think the Bears will be fully meshed just yet. In Week 4, we have the Dallas Cowboys going up against the Green Bay Packers at home. And the Packers, I think the Packers will win this game. The Packers have a great amount of decent quality pass catchers for Jordan Love. And if they actually find one that turns out to be a number 1 receiver for them, they get even better. Heading into Week 5, the Cowboys will be traveling to New York to play the Jets, and this is a win. The Jets have been a interestingly bad team these past few seasons, and I think that doesn't change here. I think the Jets will fall to the Cowboys in Week 5, and Dallas moves on to Week 6 to play the Carolina Panthers in Carolina. Now this, actually, I will be a little bold, and I'll say the Carolina Panthers upset the Dallas Cowboys. The Panthers, with Bryce Young, looked really good at the end of 2024, even pushing the Eagles a little bit in their matchup in 2024. So I think the Panthers, if they continue what they were doing at the end of last season, are more than enough to take on the Dallas Cowboys and get a win out of it. In Week 7, the Dallas Cowboys will be playing the Washington Commanders at home, and I think the Commanders win this game. I don't see Dallas beating the Washington Commanders at home. They're just not the same caliber of team. And in Week 8, the Dallas Cowboys travels to Denver to play the Broncos. Now, the Broncos, very good team in 2024, but they had room to improve. Now, I think Dallas wins this game against the Broncos. Micah Parsons and the Dallas defense should just be good enough to contain Bo Nix long enough for Dallas to eke out a win. Though I think this is a very close game because both defenses will likely be the stronger units. In Week 9, the Dallas Cowboys will be playing the Arizona Cardinals at home. And this, I think, is another win for the Dallas Cowboys because the Dallas Cowboys are going to be going up against a team that has been weirdly inconsistent in the Arizona Cardinals. Obviously, then in Week 10, the Cowboys have a bye, and then in Week 11, they will be going to play the Las Vegas Raiders, and they're just a better team here. The Raiders, their defense is not the best, and their offense, until we see what they have besides Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers in terms of pass catchers, I just don't see the Raiders out-dueling Dallas. Dallas will win that game in Week 11, then going on to lose in Week 12 against the Philadelphia Eagles, who will likely put on a show against Dallas. In Week 13, we are now fully getting into the worst part of Dallas's schedule, where they play a lot of really good teams, and in Week 13, they play the Chiefs. Well, yes, it's at home. They're not ready to beat the Chiefs. They're not ready to beat Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones. They're not of the level necessary to win this kind of game. So I have the Cowboys losing here in Week 13. And might as well keep the losses coming because in Week 14, the Dallas Cowboys will be going to Detroit, where I think they'll lose again. The Detroit Lions obviously were a very good team in 2024. And I think the Lions will once again be very good in 25. So they're going to beat the Cowboys here. In Week 15, Dallas will be playing the Minnesota Vikings at home. And by this point in the season, I think J.J. McCarthy actually will have gotten the hang of being an NFL quarterback. So here I think the Cowboys will again lose, unfortunately for them. And in Week 16, I have them winning against the LA Chargers. I think the Dallas Cowboys will rally in Week 16 and win against the LA Chargers and try and finish out the remainder of their season stronger than before. In Week 17, I have them falling to the Commanders. The Commanders obviously being a very good team this year, and unfortunately Dallas just not being ready to handle that kind of opponent. But to finish out the season, I have the Dallas Cowboys in Week 18 beating the New York Giants once again. Unfortunately, the Giants just are the weak team in this division, and Dallas will get to bully them and feel good one last time before the end of the year. But with all that being said, the Dallas Cowboys will end the year 8-9 and miss the playoffs, unfortunately. To finish out the NFC East, we have the New York Giants with the weirdly hardest schedule in the entire NFL. And so let's get started. Unlike the Cowboys, the Giants' pain and suffering comes early in the year, where they, Week 1, play the Washington Commanders, and I have them losing this game. It's unfortunate, but they don't match up well early on against the Commanders, mostly because of the Commanders just being a better team, and there won't be much breathing room for the Giants in the first half of their schedule. In Week 2, the Giants run into the Cowboys, and unfortunately for the Giants, I think they lose this game. They're just not the same. They're just not ready to take on the Cowboys. The Cowboys have a good pass rush. The Giants' O-line is not necessarily that good. And while I think the Giants' defense has improved, I don't think they're ready to handle CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens and whoever Dallas throws out at running back. I don't know who they will. They have 4 options. It's kind of weird. In Week 3, the Giants will be hosting the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm not sure if I even need to describe why I think the Giants will lose this game. So, heading into Week 4, they play the LA Chargers. Thankfully, they're at home, so at least the crowd will be cheering for them. Never mind, they probably won't be at this point. But the Chargers, I think, are the weakest of the teams the Giants has run into so far. However, that doesn't change the fact that I think the Giants will lose this game because the Chargers will likely just run the ball all over the Giants and give them Saquon Barkley nightmares, despite the fact that none of the running backs the Chargers have are named Saquon Barkley. Thankfully, relief for the New York Giants fans comes in Week 5 because they play the New Orleans Saints, and I think they get a win here. The Saints are honestly what I think is the weakest team in the NFL. Heading into Week 6, the Giants then host the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's just not... Oh, the Giants. This is not good because they get their first win of the season, and then they immediately lose in Week 6 against the Eagles. In Week 7, the Giants play the Denver Broncos in Denver, and I think once again, the Giants lose. The Broncos at home at Mile High will just be the better team, even though I think the Giants have better receiving core, and you could argue that maybe Russell Wilson might be a better quarterback than Bo Nix. I don't think it's going to end well for the Giants. And then in Week 8, they get the Eagles again, but this time they have to visit the Eagles in Philadelphia. So the Giants will lose Week 8. It's just unfortunate that they have been done in this bad in the schedule. I wish I could be more positive on this team, but it's just not going well. And I really want to be more positive because I really like Malik Neighbors and a lot of the pieces they have. It's just they're going up against teams I just can't fathom them beating early on in this schedule. In Week 9, the Giants will be going up against, at home, the San Francisco 49ers. Now, the 49ers, I don't think the Giants will win this game, even though the Niners are so much worse in terms of roster than they have been in years past. I just don't see the Giants actually beating the 49ers. In Week 10, the New York Giants will be playing the Chicago Bears in Chicago. Now, I actually think the Giants will win this game. And hopefully by this point, the Giants actually figure out their quarterback room and who is their true season starter for the rest of the season. I think by this point, if they do start Russell, they'll be done with Russ by this point, hopefully. In Week 11, the Giants will be hosting the Green Bay Packers, and I think the Giants lose this game. I think the Packers are a much better team, roster construction-wise, and Josh Jacobs will run the ball all over the Giants' backfield. And moving into Week 12, the Giants play the Detroit Lions in Detroit, and that's another loss. The Lions are just going to dominate. It's not going to be that close of a game. It'll probably be a blowout, in all honesty. The Giants will not be able to handle the fact that the Lions have that running and passing combination. Moving into Week 13, the New York Giants will be playing the New England Patriots. Now, the Patriots are a very improved team in terms of roster, but it remains to be seen how improved they are. But I think they'll be good enough to beat the Giants in Week 13. In Week 14, they have a bye, so a nice little late bye for them. Week 15, they run back into the Commanders, and that's another loss because the Commanders are just the better team, and the Giants have been reeling from getting run over by every good team this season. So the Commanders are no different. They run over the Giants, and in Week 16, I don't think that changes because the New York Giants in Week 16 will be running into the Minnesota Vikings. And Minnesota's honestly just their defense alone is why I think they'll win this game. In Week 17, the Giants actually reach a winnable game on their schedule because now they're playing the Las Vegas Raiders. And I think they do win this game because the Raiders just aren't of the same caliber as the New York Giants. And to end out the season, the New York Giants will be losing their final game of the year to the Dallas Cowboys. Why? Because the Dallas Cowboys, if I've noticed anything about them, just are very good at beating up on the poor Giants. And so the Giants will end the season with 3 wins and 14 losses, being the bottom of the NFC East. So with that being said, guys, please like, share, and subscribe down below. Let me know what you think, and thanks for watching.